everybody. Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to be with you here. So this is the start of a panel titled, How do you navigate the relationship between your disability identity, deaf identity, and your artistic identity? My name is Edu O. I'm a man, cisgender man, gay, salt and pepper beard, and brown beret. And I would love you guys to describe yourselves and give a quick introduction of who you are to our audience.
De vocês e uma breve apresentação da forma como vocês preferirem se apresentar.
Hi everyone, and I'm Aristide Rontini. I come from Italy. I'm a choreographer performer with disability. I'm a community dance practitioner and also activist, together with a group called Al Di Qua Artists. It was a group of Italian artists with disability fighting for a change in the art system in Italy. And I'm quite tall. I have dark brown hair and eyes. I wear big glasses. Today I'm total black. And my pronouns is he, him. Thank you.
So my name is Gisato. My surname is Gisato. It's a tapping on the nose. And in terms of my background, I'm an artistic director, a performance artist, and a BSL art guide. In terms of my visual appearance, I have Far East Asian appearances because I'm originally from Japan, but I'm now based in London. I've got dark, short hair. I've got blue and white top on with a design on it. That's me. And in terms of pronouns, my pronouns are she, her.
Eu queria me desculpar, meu sinal é este. E fico muito...
This is a very important panel for me. I'm very honored to be sharing a panel with you too, because this topic especially is of a very great focus on my own research as an artist and on my doctoral research that I'm carrying out in Brazil. So I'm really looking forward to hear your thoughts in what we are going to discuss today. So I think the first question that I would like to pose is how we perceive our identities, our disabled identities, but not only as an identity, but as a layer of our identity, because there are many layers to our identities. This is just one of the layers of our identities, and how that specific layer informs our artistic practice and artistic identity as performers and artists.
It's a really good point about identity being made, as it is so multifaceted and multi-layered. So, first part of my identity is that I am deaf. I was born in Japan, so I'm Japanese. I'm a woman. Of course, there's more layers there, but those are three primary identities that I hold. And those three identities, help create my artistic identity as well, I would say.
With all those layers, but how does specifically your deaf identity informs your work and allows you to discover different tools or approaches to your own artistic practice? Did it change paths of your artistic choices? Did it inform choices of your artistic practice? How do you see that the deaf identity shaped your artistic identity?
Uma ferramenta para a criação, de que maneira você produz isso a partir dessa sua experiência.
So looking at the layer of my deaf identity and unpicking it, I think you are right. We're saying using the terms deaf and disabled, but we look at what deaf really means. And, it is primarily a sensory disability. And it means that, I communicate in a different way than might be expected. In terms of its concept as a sensory disability, we've all got 5 senses. We've got sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. There we go, that's the other one. So we've got 5 known senses. And I imagine almost like a star, a constellation map, how they're placed in the sky. Almost a 5-pointed star, you may. This means, for example, people who are hearing may have all 5 senses, all 5 points of the star. But I question whether everyone's star is the same shape. For example, some people may hear really, really well. You know, they can hear sound and, you know, piano strokes really well. So that part of their star is very strong. Someone may have a very poor sense of taste potentially, so they can't taste things very well. So everyone's star, sensory star, is a different shape and they have different strengths. Because I'm deaf, I cannot hear things, so that means that arm of the star is cut off. But this means, you know, I'm covered by my other senses, I still have them in place. And actually, some research says that we have 33 senses instead of the 5. That's why I feel, you know, senses, and I really want to unpick the concept of senses and how they work in our everyday life, how we perceive concepts, how we take things in audibly through taste, and how those all mesh together. And I take this all, and this is how I create art from my own deaf perspective, and that's very much my process.
Very interesting question. Also for me, identity is a multi-layer and constantly moving concept, and I mainly base my research on that, questioning the sense of identity and what is, from many point of view, philosophical point of view, sociological, personal, a lot. And I also feel that my disability is just a part of my identity, and as also Kisato said, in my work can have much more importance and relevance in a piece rather than in another. But things that connect all my pieces, I think it's questioning the sense of identity in society, and also the values that are constantly promoted by society. As my disability consists of having a shorter arm, I leave somehow a borderline in which I'm perceived as a disabled sometimes, sometimes not, and how my body is impacting in the environment is I'm adapting, but not that much. So I have to also be honest to my life experience of disability. But I feel I started to go into the art field because I sensed a sense of not conformity to the society, and I needed a place to think about it and to bring new values, new perspective that disrobe and question society's values.
What interests me as well from all the answers that you guys gave is this idea of the normativity that we inserted in, and understanding that art comes from the perspective of this point of reference of a cisgender, white, male, heteronormative, that sees anything that is in the periphery of that identity to be peripheral and marginal, but sometimes even inferior to that hegemonic thought. So us that are in that other perspective, how can we rise or show them that we have our own perspective, that our own work are points of reference for people that are working right now? How can we show that our perspective is also a reference to other artists?
It's an interesting point we've made, talking about what normal is, normative concepts, and what normal really means. I find it really interesting. Normal often to me means something is never unique. So I think, there's a concept of what is normal art. Maybe, normal can create art potentially. But I think we often get from people the concept that we are not normal. So I like to think that makes us unique. That's much of my feeling. I'm happy to be unique. And I feel like that's why I can create my own art, because of that.
Yeah, I have the feeling of this image of constellation, and I want to keep on going with this. The planet is not the center of the universe, and there are constellations, so relativity vision, no? And how they one star relate to each other, it's a relation. And I really would love to point out this. Rather than having a normative model, because it's a model, having more a constellation model, so that people can really relate to each other and find their own unique way to build up something, because we are not alone, we are always in a group feeling, collective system. So I really would love to promote this kind of constellation system also in the art, because many times we feel theoretically, practically, production-wise, critical-wise, that we are lack something.
I think it's really interesting, and it's got me thinking about two different ways that we can approach this. So far in my work, there's been instances where I've led, so I've been the lead performer, and then there's been other instances where people have, asked me to be involved, as a deaf performer. And the difference between those two situations is quite interesting for me. So for example, the second one where I've been brought in, the organisers have gone, oh, we want to bring in a deaf performer, and I expect them to be like this, and I expect this from them. But then my response has been quite different, because I'm not their organiser's concept of what a deaf person is. I have my own deaf perspective. So sometimes I find that really difficult. Sometimes I feel I have to match their concepts.
I have the same feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, I have this feeling now that there is a model of this, what market wants from disabled community artists, or deaf disabled community artists. But as an artist with disability, I'm an individual and I have my own perspective. I have my own disability, and sometimes I feel I also have the feeling I should match. I don't match. Is it correct? I mean, what happened? What is your expectation? Me to have always performer with disability on stage with me, or it's not a choice, because I have projects, and sometimes it's on projects that I'm working and I'm casting people. It's just project.
I completely agree with you. I feel that most organisations, I do have some difficulties with them, because they expect me to be one way and then I'm different, and there's some cohesion there. And again, talking about processing time, as we've been saying, and some difficulties around that. Often I end up having to, I have to change myself. I have to adjust myself to fit into those boxes. But there have been some projects that I've been involved in. So for example, there's one sound project I was involved in that was really positive. I was with two musical artists. They asked me to get involved with this project. And they did have some expectations, and my response was quite jaw-dropping to them. It was quite different from what they had expected, but I was really lucky. They were very open. They said, okay, why not? Let's do it your way. They worked to meet me in the middle. And that made me so happy, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
You were lucky. And you also said it, I mean, you projected out, didn't bow. Bow? No, bow. Kneel. Kneel. Because also this is an attraction in a way. You're just free to say, I am this, I am interested in this is my perspective. Let's work together and meet. Yeah, I can add two things more. As also, I have the feeling that now disability is getting what is the normal disability, normativity of disability in a way. The other thing is that as we bring and voice up different perspective, methodology, aesthetics, also way of producing, time-wise, space-wise, body-wise, many-wise, we are already disrupting, in a way, the system, asking for a more different model based on relationship and in a way I feel also to slow down a bit the system because it's very high productive. Yeah, because it's also like as artists, not with disability, but as artists, sometimes I also perceive in the community that we are so dedicated and giving so much time to that sometimes there is no time for the rest, friends, family, partners, and which is also part of our lives. It's not, we are not missionary. No, I mean, sometimes I perceive that it's also a need for this kind of things, we need a change also. Because I feel, I don't know you, but...
I know you were talking about breaking away from these models, Edu. I mean, a simple answer to that might be, I'm really very much, in the deaf community. So, everyone there is deaf. So I think I have maybe broken away from those models, partly by who I'm surrounded by. And maybe yourselves, you're in different worlds in terms of your disability. I don't know if you're in a world with, members of your own community that have similar disabilities that really understand you. So I'm just thinking of how we can break away from these models. Because, for me, in my community, in the deaf community, I am normal. We are all normal because we're similar to that. It's a question for me almost. The question is, if I was to be, as some people would say, normal, would I actually enjoy it? Because of my experiences I have.
E talvez uma última pergunta, que esse assunto me interessa, eu gostaria de ficar aqui o dia todo com vocês.
Just so we control time, I would love to keep talking about this because this is such a fantastic conversation and there's so much to discuss about it, but we are quite short on time, so I would like to close this with one question. In what way do you feel that your work breaks free or breaks away from those normative concepts? And how do you think practically that breaking away from those normative concepts shape your works as artists?
No, for me it's depending each time from the project, because as I told you, I'm inspired by something and I start questioning, using this lens of questioning society through the work. And each time can be different. Once I worked on a piece with two dancers, and they actually were doing not technical stuff, not very small movement. They were relating to each other, so it was not overproducting through their body. I don't know. It was just connected to the space and to the object which were there, and maybe more. No, it was more telling a story through object than through body, which is also always, you are on stage, you are a dancer, you should dance. Also, this is an expectation, and what kind of dance you should dance. Energetic, very performative way of perform dance. And in that case, for example, I felt really, no, I should slow down, just do a small movement and feel each other, narrate what you're about the project through objects. That's it. It was maybe, for me, it was a way to also dislocate myself from previous work in which I was really choreographing.
I would like to thank you all both very much. It was a pleasure to hear you speak, and perhaps an answer that we can all take from what we all talked about today is that we need to occupy those spaces. We need to see people with disability occupying the stage, the backstage, the spaces, the audiences, the government, the decision makers, the policy makers, the funders, the people that are the organizers of venues. So that normative perspective can be broken finally. So those things can be seen through the eyes of people like us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.